gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your hosts, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Peña, the always opinionated Paris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
Welcome to Gamertag Radio episode 1380. This is your host, Danny Peña. And on this episode, we're going to focus on the upcoming game, Avowed, from Obsidian. Shout out to co-host Paris Lilly. He went to Obsidian a couple weeks back and not only got to play the game, but also sat down with the team that worked on the game. And he recorded a couple of interviews for Gamertag Radio. Make sure also to check out his YouTube channel. Just look up Paris Lilly, and you get to see more content from his studio visit. And he did an amazing job. I believe a couple of outlets already picked up parts of the interview. Make sure to check it out. Let us know your thoughts over here. So, all right. So I also want to say, everyone, thank you for listening for the past year. I know Thanksgiving's coming up, and now Christmas is in a couple weeks. And we've been, releasing content here and there, but we haven't done a live stream for a while. We've been really, really busy with a couple things. But I do have a couple things lined up right before we end this season's podcast, Gamertag Radio. I have a couple of interviews that I think you guys are going to love. So make sure to stay tuned on that. And we also going to have our last episode before we end it for this year, Game of the Year. So that's going to be a great conversation. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Next year's a big year, 20th anniversary of Gamertag Radio. And that's about it. We're going to wrap it up here. And I hope you guys enjoy the interview with Paris and Obsidian here only on Gamertag Radio, episode 1380. Let's do this.
You're listening to Gamertag Radio.
All right, everyone. This is Paris. I am still here at Obsidian. And as some of you already know, I have played Avowed, and I have a couple more people here to talk about the game. So can you introduce yourself?
I'm Matt Hansen. I am the art director for Avowed.
I'm Dennis Presnell. I'm the lead environment artist.
Now, you and I have already met at LA Gamescom. So this is our first time meeting. So it's very nice to meet you.
You get to meet my better component.
Yeah. So let's talk art in Avowed. Let's talk world building in Avowed. It's a very pretty game.
Thank you.
It's a very pretty game.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
No, it is because, like I said, I played it at LA Gamescom. Yeah. So I got to see that level, which already looked great. Even now, I immediately saw a visual upgrade to the game, which was fantastic. But getting this new zone, this new area, which is just a different biome compared to what we had before, was really pop. So I don't know if you want, let's just start there. Talk about the area that we just played in Avowed.
Yeah, so you would have played the prologue,
yes,
which is a little island just off the coast of the main area you were, which is Dawn Shore.
Yeah.
So
see, I didn't. I was like, is it? I couldn't remember. So I was like, I'm gonna let him say it. There you go, Dawn Shore.
Feel free to just throw me under. I'll take it. So Dawn Shore is the region you were in. It's kind of the somewhat welcoming gateway to the Living Lands. It's our It's the region that's probably going to be the most familiar to people.
Okay.
It's, it's kind of a little idyllic at first, and then you start to get a little deeper and you go, what is going on around here? You're starting to see nature fighting back against the people that are trying to, settle this place. And then as you go deeper and more regions into the game, later and later in the game, it's just that weirdness, that natural, sort of reclamation and the danger of the Living Lands gets more and more present with each place you go to. But I don't know, Dennis, if you want to talk more specifics on Dawn Shore.
Oh, well, first Prologue Island. I think it's a great intro to the game. It kind of sets up what you'll be seeing in Dawnshore, and Dawnshore just builds upon that. But immediately, you're met with some wild, unique vegetation, beautiful pops of color, but also an environment that feels foreboding and threatening. And as you pass through Prologue, I think the art does like a really wonderful job of telling a story and sort of instilling a sense of urgency and dread in the player, as well as I guess enticing the player to want to explore. Exploration is such a hallmark of our game, and something that we really leaned hard into.
I think the best compliment I can give is it felt lived in.
Yes.
I found myself, and I'll go back and look at my capture footage when I get home, stopping and looking around a lot at things. Was this Dawnshore? It doesn't matter. But at one point I was standing on a cliff and I'm looking around and I go, oh, wow, this is, this feels like a real world that I'm in. And again, that's a credit to you and your team for what you designed. So what were because obviously there's more biomes other than just that. Yeah. So what were some of the things that inspired you for the art in Avowed?
That's a long list.
We got time. No.
Yeah. I mean, really, there aren't any singular inspirations I can point to. Not only because it wasn't, just me developing what that would be, but because we've got a whole team contributing their interests and experiences, and just tossing out great ideas, and we latch onto those and we build on them. I was talking a little bit earlier today about how there's some real world things we're looking at, like real world locations, and saying, oh, we really like these kinds of mountains, or we really like these, this style of swamp or whatever. But we're also looking at, hey, here's a particular type of salt crystal. We really like the shapes in it. What happens if we make it really big and you can climb around in it, right? And those sorts of varied interests and inspirations come together in a way that actually suits the Living Lands well, because the Living Lands itself is a confluence of all of these different environments. And oh boy, I added some extra syllables to environments there. Environments and worlds, and so it doesn't end up being too much. It's not really a maximalist approach to it. Everything is there with intention, but there's still a lot of a variety to explore.
Yeah, we had a broad box to sort of work in, and we were able to pull inspiration from basically everywhere. There were a few limits other than just respecting the core pillars of the game, which Matt is really terrific at describing. And then to circle back with something that you mentioned earlier was it feeling really lived in. And that was really the story that we were trying to tell through the art. Being very deliberate with our set dressing and our building of the areas. Everything that exists in the map, really, it's not there for arbitrary reasons. Everything is purpose built, and it has a sense of authenticity that I think it how do I say? I just feel like it's really a wonderful experience to explore it, because you feel like you're exploring a place that has a long, rich history.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that contributes most to that, and it's kind of a hallmark of Obsidian games, is missable content. Right. You can walk past a door and never open it and never know what's beyond.
Right.
But a buddy of yours might have played it, and they come to talk to you and they're like, did you find the secret room in the prologue where all the bad stuff happened? Yeah. And you could be like, what are you talking about? And I don't know if anyone actually today, or we had some folks here yesterday as well, found that room, but it's a real place. I think maybe 2% of players will find it.
Yeah.
And it's in our prologue, right? And it's, you get in there and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I definitely did not find that.
But having spots like that throughout the game make it just feel much more alive. Right?
No, absolutely. Because even that was the prologue. There was one area where I could tell, like, if I smashed the thing to go down, I could go in and there was like a treasure box in there.
Yeah.
But I totally could have skipped that.
Yeah.
So that was like an entire area of the game I would not have seen. So yeah, I totally appreciate that you put that type of things in the game. The other question I had for you, art wise, this is all handcrafted?
Oh
yeah.
You know, we a lot of it was done internally. We also have an incredible group of outsourcing partners we've worked with. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we make very bespoke experiences.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important for us to be able to make sure we're putting the right thumbprint on everything we make.
Absolutely. And I ask you this first.
Sure.
What is the thing that you're most excited for people to experience in Avowed?
Oh, is any one thing? There are three things that I really love about Avowed, and I can't rank them necessarily. And the combat is really fun. I mean, I think that is definitely going to excite people and have them want to continue to engaging in the content. Exploration is huge. We really worked hard to reward the player for, checking around corners and opening those doors and rewarding their curiosity. And the third thing for me is just how you move through the maps.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly fun. We have this amazing parkour system that you can jump onto things, over things, climb up to the rooftops. If you can see it, most likely you can get there. We're very deliberate at showing you what content you can and can't access. But if you see, some indicators that there might have been a presence of life there or human activity, like chances are you can engage with it.
Yeah. I'm a lot like Dennis. I have a hard time picking favorites.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm excited to see the stories that our players tell with the world we've provided them. We've laid out a really rich place for them to explore, and it's always so fun for me to like go through forums after the game's been out for a little bit. Like, I did this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just get so surprised by it. We allow for a lot of opportunities for player agency. And it's just, there's a lot of people who I tend to go very altruistic when I play games. I just like being the good guy. But I like when, people have fun stories about how they were jerks to this or that. You see it backfire. But then on top of that, also, like, I really want Avowed to be kind of a gateway game into the world of Aora. We very consciously with Avowed decided we wanted this to be a more approachable game. Not that the other, Pillars 1 and 2 are unapproachable per se, but they're niche, right? The CRPG genre is, it can be intimidating if you're not familiar with it. And so I hope that players will play this game and go, oh man, I really like this setting. I really like these characters. I really like this world. There's 2 other games? I'm going to go check those out.
Right.
And obviously they'll be surprised by the differences in how those games play. But I hope it's a happy surprise.
So I have to tell you this funny story.
Yeah.
So we on Kind of Funny, we got a chance remotely to talk to Gabe and Carrie some months back. And I said, this is Path of Exile instead of Pillars. And I have felt like an idiot ever since. So I'll get to talk to Carrie later. I can't wait to bring this up to her because I've literally been carrying this the entire time. But
I'll tell you what, you're not the only person that makes that mistake.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, okay, this is going to be very telling. Our wiki for the game is like the best source of truth for just lore. This game is so rich with lore, right? And every once in a while I'll be like, oh man, craftsmanship. Yeah, I think that's an Abaddon thing, but maybe also that's in Magran's domain. And I'll just like type in like PoE gods. And then it's just like Path of Exile.
Yeah.
And I'll even click the link and I'll go, nope, wrong wiki. And then I'll leave it. So you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
But to what both of you were just saying, because I've asked that question everyone I've talked to so far.
Yeah.
And the common response has been about the exploration of the world.
Yeah.
Everybody's very excited to have us, the players, go out on the off beaten path and explore in the world. And even in just my limited time, that's what I did. Yeah. I was going around random stuff, looking and bringing this back into the art of what you have created in this game. It's just a beautiful game. It really is. And I don't mean this in a negative way, because this is a compliment. Like I said, I played it before. Obviously, we've seen videos, things like this. But what I saw today, which is obviously more close to what the final game is going to look like, they're going to be surprised. They're definitely going to be surprised with this final polish that you're putting on the game. It really pops. The color palette really stands out, and it's going to be good. I'm
grateful to hear that. I mean, there's a real component of risk to how we marketed the game.
Yeah.
Which is to show it in, at any time a marketing meeting came out, we had to release this trailer or whatever.
Yeah.
We would show the game exactly as it was.
Right.
And that's not a common strategy. You know, a lot of people like to put a little spit shine on a thing before they show it to the public, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But we wanted to really make sure that when players got their hands on the game, they didn't have any disappointing surprises. And then the best way to do this is just be really honest with what you're showing people.
Yeah.
You know, the first trailer we put on, I look back at it and go, oh boy, that's rough. You know, and it's only because I've seen how far we've taken things.
Yeah.
The game is practically unrecognizable at this point in a good way.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really excited for people to kind of experience, you know, what you got to experience today. The content you played, that's just the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't do anything special for that. And so it's very, like, I get excited when I had a great time. It's beautiful. It's like, oh, you're going to love the rest of this.
Right.
You're going to love the rest of this. So, that's great. I'm really happy to get that.
Can you answer, because again, I know there's biome diversity in there. Do we know how many different zones are in the game? Is that something you're talking about?
I don't think we're talking about that quite yet.
Okay.
All of the content we've released so far, players have seen a lot of them. I know there's one particular one that we aren't talking about.
Okay.
It is unfortunately also my favorite zone. It's just like, let me talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a decent variety. You know, if you really wanted to pick through the trailers that have been out so far and the other content we've released so far, you might be able to get a good idea of the count. But I don't think I don't know if we're going to say that yet, so I'm going to hold my tongue.
So I'll say it this way. So is it fair to say that, you know, again, from an artistic standpoint, there was a mandate to have every biome be unique?
Yes, absolutely. And it goes beyond that, but I'll start with that. Which is just to say the Living Lands itself is in the lore of Pillars 1 and 2. You can find books in those first two games that describe it a little bit. It's a small island continent that's made up of these incredibly distinct and diverse valleys. You know, you might get a jungle and you go through a mountain pass and suddenly you're, you know, in a rocky wasteland or whatever. I don't know why I picked jungle. That's one of them we didn't do. But I mean, that's really what this place is. Right. It was a great opportunity to not only embrace the narrative of what the Living Lands is supposed to be, but also just have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to make a lot of ride, right? But to do that in a cohesive way, too. As you move from region to region, it will feel very distinct, like you are in a different place. But even within the regions, there are sub-biomes.
Yeah.
And those serve a couple of purposes, not only just for a sense of variety, because the regions are quite large. A sense of variety so you don't get bored in the hours you're spending in Dawn Shore or whatever. Yeah. But also as a subconscious wayfinding element for players. If everything looks the same and you get turned around and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But if you are wandering and you're like, oh, I'm in a swamp area. Oh, the swamp area was next to that pine forest. So if I go that way, then I'll be able to turn there and get back to the city. Like that kind of subconscious wayfinding is so important when you have games at the scale that we're doing them. And so it's a lot of good excuses to have a lot of fun. But I don't know if you want to talk more about any of that stuff.
Yeah, with the region diversity that we have, it does all feel natural. You don't feel jostled or disrupted by the move from one area to the next. Like when you have that kind of diversity, like it could sometimes feel very much like Mega Man levels. Like you have the level, the ice level, and the cloud level. But I mean, they all feel like a contiguous part of the same, region of the world. And it's just, it feels very natural moving through it.
Excellent. What? Because again, we're taking this from an artistic standpoint. Were you involved in any of the weapon design?
Yes. So much of the weapon design, we outsourced the concepts for. A lot of it was handled, and I directly oversaw.
Okay.
That. There is actually one weapon in the game. Well, there's a couple that I directly concepted. One of them was from what we played at Gamescom.
Okay.
The cool sword with the guy.
Yeah.
That's my baby.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Granted, I'm not a 3D artist, so huge credit to, I believe it was Zoe that sculpted that one. But yeah, once, I've got my finger in every pie to an extent. But I also try to make sure there's a lot of room for the individual, contributors to put their own stamp on things.
So does that also go to character design as far as like the clothing, all those things?
Yeah, and I mean my general strategy with leadership and especially with creative leadership is to give the box for people to work in and get the hell out of the way.
Yeah,
right? These are really smart, creative people. I'm just one dude, and so getting diverse perspectives on what our stuff can be, right? And every once in a while, I kind of have to tap things back into the box and say, like, hey, we got a little off the rails to this one. Let's, maybe make these modifications. It will be good. But the fact of the matter is, like, every single developer on this team is an expert at what they do. I'm just good at talking. So it's
that's what they say about me. I just am good at talking.
Yeah, like I'm good at talking, and I can do a pretty decent job of selling an idea. I can do I'm a pretty good conflict mitigator. I'm not an environment artist. There's been loads of times where I've just been like, Dennis, just make it cool, bro.
Yeah,
Please, hey, here's some ideas, just make it cool, and it rolls with it. So, I absolutely I'm involved with that process, but it's a lot of the individual devs.
We have an incredibly creative team, and on this project, we just had real freedom and autonomy to express ourselves. Where we have this really yes and mentality. It's never no or but. And as long as we're operating within, the game's pillars, we've had tremendous creative freedom. And that gives the devs a sense of ownership and a sense of passion in their work that is reflected in the quality of the game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to end it on this because I'm curious both of your answers here.
Yeah.
What is something you want the community to know about Avowed?
I'm gonna have to stew on that for a second. I don't know if you have it handy, Dennis. You can say my ass while I'm pondering, but
Avowed is just a wonderful experience from start to finish. Having had a completionist playthrough of the game, I can say that there's no content that is there just to fill time or just to take up space. You never feel like you're grinding or you're just trying to get through it to the end. The player is going to enjoy the content from start to finish, and it's consistent. We didn't, put all eggs into one basket in the first area. I mean, players will be rewarded for getting through this game, and we don't cheap out at the end. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that kind of spurs in me something that I'm excited for people to get to experience. It's just like this is a holistic experience that will, not only respect your time, but it will encourage potentially you to play the game again. Right? There's so much to find there, and there's so many different ways that you can tell your story within that space. It's very much an Obsidian game. maybe that's what it comes down to. It's not only is it an Obsidian game and true to our strengths as a studio, but it's also an evolution on that formula. You know, I think Dennis opened with talking about parkour in our game, right? And traversal in our game. We took that a lot further than anything Obsidian has ever done before, and I think we really nailed it in a lot of ways. And that just means that's one more way for players to experience the world they want to experience them. And that's exciting me. I'm really excited for what Avowed means for the future of the studio and the kinds of games we can make in the future, but also just as its own contained thing. I think there's a lot of magic there for people to find.
That's awesome, and thank you both for sharing that. I will just say on a personal note, I'm an Obsidian fan, have been for a long time. All the Obsidian games over the years, just I've loved them. So ever since Avowed we first found out about in 2020, I guess, right? I'm like, I can't wait to see what this is going to be, and to see over the years what it has evolved into to now this final product that I just played. I'm excited for it. I love the player freedom. I feel like I can go into this game and just play it the way I want to play it. I don't feel like the game's telling me I have to play it this way. And I think the work that your teams have done by creating this world, this beautiful set piece that we get to now go in and explore, I'm excited for it. So again, thank you both.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And honestly, like, you hinted at something there, which is, I think a lot of people have been waiting for a long time to understand exactly what this game is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I am so grateful for the patience that our fans have had, right? It's not been a particularly clear picture,
right?
Until now. And even then, it's hard to get a really good understanding until you just play it, right? And so I'm so grateful that, folks like you are coming in and getting a chance to get your hands up and go, okay.
I mean, again, just being completely transparent on this as we end this. I didn't know what the hell this was until I played it in August or whatever at Gamescom, because, we'd see the trailers and this and, Carrie go on a podcast and talk about it. I'm like, okay, but what is it? Right. So to now, I played it twice now. Oh, I totally get it. And it was funny this time playing it. I struggled a little bit with the combat, trying to figure out the best way to do it. And right when it clicks, like, I got it. Thank you for playing. We'll see you in February. Okay. But that's yeah, exactly.
We didn't plan it, but I'm glad that was you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to me.
Yeah.
Can't wait to February, get the final. Everybody, we're getting an Obsidian ass RPG. It's going to be great. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
I am still here at Obsidian and I have still played Avowed, but I have two more people here to talk about the game. So can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kate Dollarhide. I'm a narrative designer at Obsidian, and I'm working on Avowed.
I'm Berto Rittger. I'm our region director on Avowed. What that means is basically area design for regions, and area design at Obsidian means basically quest and level design into one role. It's a very Obsidian thing. Sorry for the explanation, but it's kind of required.
Heart of design.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, thank you both for taking the time to talk to me about the game. And thank you for that explanation, because I was probably going to ask anyways. But actually, I want to start with you because I want to talk about, this is my second time playing Avowed. And this is the longest time I've been able to play it now for, it was about 2 hours I got to play. Your dialogue's really good.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you laughing?
Yeah, I definitely laugh. And I'm telling you my favorite part. It was in the prologue, and it was the woman that was in the prison.
Oh, Elora. Yes.
And we'll get into dialogue choices in a sec, but I was purposely being mean
Oh, yeah.
And I left her.
You left her there.
I left her.
Oh, so you got to see the result of that, didn't you?
No, actually I didn't, because at one point I didn't 100% finish the prologue, and they were like, all right, let's just go ahead and jump to, into the main area that we were. And then she was there. Yeah. So then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have left her. What does that mean? But the reason I bring that up is I love the dialogue choices in there and the impact they potentially could have.
Yeah, totally.
And just what she was saying to me when I left her, I thought was absolutely hilarious. So kind of talk about that a little bit, the narrative choices that you're bringing into Avowed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept of, play your way or player agency is really at the core of the games that we make at Obsidian. That's true for all our RPGs, and it's true of Avowed too. And so when we're designing our conversations, when we're designing our quests, we really want to give the player as much freedom to, express themselves and play the character they want to play as much as they want, right? So that means you can be a hero, you can be a villain, you can be funny, you can use your skills or your attributes in conversation to get new quest outcomes, get new information, stuff like that. It's something we've done in Pillars 1 and Pillars 2 and bringing forward into Avowed now.
Excellent. Now I want to turn to you, because you gave an explanation for what your role is here on Avowed. Kind of talk about that more. What exactly does that mean as far as with these regions that we'll be exploring?
So similar to Outer Worlds, we have an open zone structure. Yeah. So our regions they have their own core identity, visual style, and tone narratively. They have their own main story quest, and that will lead you to the next region of the Living Lands. But as a region director, basically, I'm in charge of how the level design, the narrative design, and the art come together to tell the kind of same cohesive story. So it's a very collaborative process. It's not just me. It's all of us working together. And Kate and I have worked very closely together, like on Dawn Treader, the demo that we showed at Gamescom. And that was a very collaborative experience between telling, like, what is this character of Sargemus, this gold-skinned godlike character, and how does his the amount of time he spent in this dungeon underground, how does that reflect in both the environment and the dialogues? Like you can talk his ear off if you really want. You can kind of skip through that, but you can also discover little pieces of like the books that he's collected over the years in his library, and also the fact that library is now completely flooded, and that's a result of this tumultuous landscape that is part of the story that will be explored as you go throughout the Living Lands. But we want to show you that both visually and in the storytelling, so that you can get bits and pieces of everything, no matter where you go.
No, that is fantastic. Just to stick on that for just a second, because obviously Obsidian, it's a team effort for everything that you do, but it sounds even more specifically for your job as region director, you have to work with narrative. You got to get the art team in. You got to understand, all right, here's the story. Here's where we're taking these characters. Here's the different scenarios these characters could go. Here's how the world has to be set up to make all that happen.
Yeah, I think like you bring up Allura in the prologue. That's also an experience, like choices and consequences are so core to Obsidian's games and to RPGs and to this game. And we want to forecast that to you as a player immediately. We want to give you choices and even how that first hour of the game is going to play out and how that's going to impact the way that you play the rest of Dawnshore and things after that. And that comes up kind of, it's planned from the beginning, and it also is very emergent because we're a very collaborative team and we're all playing each other's stuff and giving feedback constantly. Ideas are coming from every direction, and we obviously have to triage those things to make sure the game gets finished and everything. But like artists will have ideas about narrative and have ideas about design and vice versa and all of that. So it's a little bit of all of us everywhere in this game.
So my question for you is, again, the way that this world is set up, the way the dialogue is set up, there's obviously there's consequences, the whole thing that you go through these dialogues. So it's very complex. I would naturally assume. How does that work? Because I know nothing. I just play games. So the fact that I get to ask you these questions is very enlightening for me. So how does that work from a narrative standpoint? Like, all right, here's the game that they're building. I have these great ideas for these stories. Here's all these different choices. And then someone from another team comes to you, well, yeah, that's not going to work. So then you have to pivot at that point, right? So
totally.
How often does things like that come up for you?
It's here and there.
Yeah.
We're working and we have like basically two teams split up, one working in one region and one in another at the same time. And they're talking back and forth as they're developing their work so that we make sure, we're not stepping on the toes of the region coming after us, or we're not duplicating their content. So everyone's making unique stuff. So you just have to be flexible in terms of the story you're trying to tell, and just really hold on to the core that matters. Like if you have a character who's telling a story about, a lost love, there's a number of ways you can tell that story, and I think it can be adaptable to the various circumstances. But you still want to hold on to that core and keep the narrative, heart alive there.
So I want to stick with you for just a second, because again, my curiosity with these things, right? So how involved are you with the voice cast for Avowed as far as bringing this story to life? Like, well, I need this certain tone, this inflection, things like that, as far as the dialogue that you're writing.
Yeah, we're very lucky in that we get to be involved in the entire VO process. So when it comes time to start recording our dialogues, we'll write sides, which are basically summaries of the characters that we're casting for, get a little screenshot of them, get some like representative dialogue from them, and just a short paragraph about who they are, what they want, and what they're about in the world, what kind of content they show up in. And then those get sent out for casting. We get the casting recordings back, and we talk about those as a group, where it's like, ooh, does this really suit the vibe of the character that I've created,
exactly,
right? And every once in a while you get really lucky, and it's like, yeah, this person just inhabited this role. And that's like the most fun part of it. And then we get to be in the recording sessions too, to provide context and, work with the voice director to get the best performance for that character that really like sends the vision. Yeah. It's a blast.
So again, one other curious, and then I want to bring it to you. So the fact that you're actually involved in the voice recordings with these actors, if the actor has a suggestion or improvises on something, is that something where you're like, no, you need to stick to the script, or depending on what it is, like, hey, maybe that was a great idea. Let's run with that for the game.
Yeah, totally. It's it kind of depends on where we are in production, but generally we do get to be a little bit flexible.
Okay.
Like if we haven't sent the dialogue out for translation yet, then at that point, we can totally change it. If you think your character wouldn't say it like this, absolutely, let's change that. Or if this flows weird, like it just doesn't roll off the tongue, we can fix that really easily. That's one of the best things about working with the actors, is because they have incredible insights about story, and they know how to give great performances, of course, so they can really guide us in, crafting the best experience.
So I want to bring this back to you and bring this more to level design. And I'm just thinking encounters that you'll have in the world, boss battles, things like that. So how involved are you? Like the combat team is, hey, we have this set piece that we want to do. So is it also part of your job to come in and go, all right, here's the layout of the world of this arena that I'm going to have that encounter?
Yeah, we want a experience that tells a narrative and is well paced, but also gives you that gameplay breadth and depth that you really want. And combat encounters, especially, we want those spaces to be wider, flatter areas, and give you also some verticality so that you can use your bow or your grimoire or your arquebus if you get later in the game and you want to blast some Zarps. So there's a lot of options available, but we want to keep those combat spaces as clear as like clutter and things like that, and visual stuff that could block enemies from sight. And we'll have like stealth grass as well. So if you want to play a more stealth-oriented character, you can kind of sneak up on encounters, pick people off ahead of time. So that's all baked into how we build our environments. And then for instance, the strangle route, which is like kind of the main story quest. I don't know if you've reached that far.
No, I don't think I did. No.
Okay. Well, I won't talk too much. But there's a very big boss arena space in that area. And we wanted to both give you enough space to fight in, but also give you this like looming, like overhead, oh my God, nature is so imposing. Yeah. Be like, I'm just this little thing in this big world. So we want to give you that good gameplay experience, but also sell the narrative while we're doing that.
So sticking along that, because I was talking to the art team before I talked to you. So I'm curious how that collaboration works, because they're obviously looking to be very innovative and creative with the designs that they have. So is it a team effort with you of, hey, the art team's going, well, here's a concept that we have, and you're like, well, that doesn't kind of fit in the world that we're in, so I need you to do this, or or vice versa?
Yeah, often, I mean, we can kind of rely on our team to make things look really, really pretty. And so on the design side, it's often like we're talking about what is the character that lives in this space, or what kind of story are we trying to implicitly tell through the environment. So like in Dawnshore, you'll notice that the base of most of the buildings are built on these gray stone structures that are crumbling. Those are the Pargrunin, they came to Living Lands hundreds of years ago. They left these buildings a long time ago. There's also, and people built on top of them, and it's like this multicultural frontier of people that are building on top of what they found, and then nature is reclaiming it. There's ivy growing up and stuff, and all of that doesn't necessarily impact the layout necessarily, but it's trying to tell you a story. But on top of that, we're also like, we have a very beautiful game, very visually dense game, and so on the design side, we're kind of like pushing back at times when we're in the gameplay space. We're like, we need some clarity here. Like, this space shouldn't have like tons of foliage because we want to be able to see the enemies. We want to be able to pick stuff off from a distance. We want you to see this particular focal point from a certain distance. So it's like, okay, everything on the periphery looks really good. We want a clear sight line here, but it's a give and take. But obviously we want things to look good. We don't want everything to just be barren, but we want targeted, like, okay, this is an important thing that we want to highlight, or this is an area where you're not going to be fighting stuff, so we can get a bit more granular with artistic detail.
Awesome. So bring this back to you from a narrative standpoint. So obviously this is in the Pillars universe. So for you, I would assume there's, for lack of a better term, there's a lore Bible that you have to stand by to make sure that you're being accurate in that. So again, how much is that playing into some of the new directions that you may be taking in Avowed, where you don't want to betray basically the past of where it's coming from, but obviously you want to have the creative freedom, to take the story where you think it needs to go.
Yeah, totally. So when we were making Avowed, we were very mindful that we had already made 2 games in this setting, of course. So we wanted to respect the players who had played these games and loved them, the game set in the world of Eora, and so build on that experience and give them, content that respected the lore, referenced it, made it feel real and lived in, and then also created new experiences that didn't, leave players new to the world out in the cold, essentially. So we wanted to make sure everybody had interesting things that were new to them when they came to Avowed. So we're really trying to, look at the ethos of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, and then carry that forward into Avowed in the content that we make. There is quite a lot of lore.
Yeah. Oh, I bet I can imagine. Now, I've asked everybody this question, so I'm going to ask both of you the same question. What is something that you've experienced in Avowed that you're excited for people to see for themselves, if you can say it?
Ooh. Do you want to go first, Berto?
Sure. So the audio is about to sound a little different here, but the question that I had for you, what was kind of something you're excited for people to experience in Avowed?
Yeah. There's a lot of handcrafted stuff in the game. There's a lot of secrets, big and small. Some of them are totally world altering, but I won't say too much more about those. There's one thing right at the beginning of the game. And if you go underneath the docks on the eastern side of where you are at the beginning, there's a little something to find there. There's some creatures down there, but I won't say too much more. There's a lot of those little nooks and crannies and stuff that we've snuck in, hidden in, things you can climb. And I'm really excited for that. I mean, I think generally speaking, like that's kind of a specific example, but generally speaking, our parkour system, our climbing system it's very robust. You can climb on just about everything in the environment. We talked a little bit earlier about like clarity of the environment. It's another thing that the design art are always talking about, like how do we make the ledges nice and flat? Sometimes we'll put some ropes hanging down to kind of forecast you, hey, you can climb on this. But basically all the buildings in the environment, you can climb on top. There's going to be stuff to find, and you can jump across rooftops and climb the lighthouse and climb cliffs and all of that. So that's very excited. It's added a lot more verticality to the world than we've done before. So really pumped for people to experience that.
I think people are going to love that. Personally, I'm super excited about the variety of choice and consequence we've baked into Avowed. We've really taken the Obsidian design ethos for the way we make our RPGs and baked that right into Avowed. I think players are going to be surprised at the degree to which they can alter some of the storylines in this game, and some of the secret ways to resolve major quests, major events in the world. I think people will be surprised to find on their own, or to read about later, or to hear about from their friends. And that's, for me, is always the most exciting part, is seeing players talk about the game amongst themselves and share their amazing experiences that they had with their friends. And that to me is like the whole reason to make games. It's so fun.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And thank you both for your answers on that. What you said is been the common thing that everyone's been saying to me when I asked that question is the player choice, that people are going to get their hands on these games and you're handing this off to the world and you're going to get these completely different experiences as a result, where the combat works, the exploration, things like that. So I'm very excited for it. Like I said, this is my second time being able to play it, and to just see how it's improved just in these few short months since the last time I played it. I'm very excited for it.
That's
I'm a huge
awesome.
Obsidian fan. And I will say again, the dialogue that you're putting into the narrative is fantastic. I love the choices that you're having. Very fun.
Thank you so much. That really makes me so happy.
Of course. But here's the funny thing. And the audio is weird because my battery died, so I'm recording this on my phone. So I have to keep the real world in. But the language, the foul language.
Oh, yeah, you can
I
swear.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm going to take it off.
I was touching my throat.
Yeah.
No, but it's really good. So I'm excited for February. I can't wait till people get their hands on it.
Me too. Thank you so much for playing. I really appreciate you coming out to see the game. Played it twice.
Yes.
And I'm glad it's improved.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you again, the world that you're building. I mean, we've obviously only seen limited zones, so I'm very curious.
There's a lot of meat on the bone.
You're right.
I'm excited for people to experience it. It's so nice to finally have people play not a fully long form format, but longer than and yet actually get to see the open areas of the game. There's so much crammed in from everybody on the team. We're super pumped for people to get their hands on it finally.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I know we had some technical difficulties there at the end, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about Avowed.
Yeah, thank you, Paris.
All right, thank you.
This is Gamertag Radio.
I hope you guys are enjoying the interviews recorded at Obsidian. Shout out to Paris for recording it. But on this episode, let's talk about our sponsor, Total Beach, all about Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset. All right, so this headset is the cheat code for giving the best gift of the year. They get to stop sounding like they're talking underwater, and you get to be the holiday MVP. Crystal clear, maximum comfort, and an ability to hear every detail in their game is as much better gift than socks and a mug. And with a long-lasting battery life, 80 hours, you can be sure not to run out anytime soon. Whether you're treating yourself or looking for that perfect gift, now's the time to snag the headset that everyone's talking about. For a limited time, our listeners will get 10% of their entire order when you use promo code GTR at TotalBeach.com. That's 10% off your order at TotalBeach.com with the promo code GTR. I've been checking out this headset now for the past month or so. Not only I've been playing Black Ops 6 and a couple other games, but I also, and I know we're talking about Avowed here in this episode, I also played Avowed, and you could check out my video content on X and other places. But I was using this headset and it was crystal clear. I could hear the enemies. The music is amazing. Also, the conversation I'll get to have with other characters I get to meet in the game during my side quests or the main quest of the game, it sounded great. And the best thing of all, the battery was lasting a long, long time. Like I said, up to 80 hours of battery life. That's insane. Insane. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today for limited time only. Head over to TotalBeach.com and use promo code GTR for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at TotalBeach.com with promo code GTR. Don't delay. Get the perfect gift now while you're listening to this episode. Happy holidays from GTR and Total Beach.
This is Gamertag Radio. Voicemail at 786-2737-GTR.
All right, this is Paris. I am still here at Obsidian, and this is my final conversation for the day. And who better to end the day with than Carrie Patel? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for chatting today.
I've been playing Avowed. I like Avowed.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I like Avowed.
Good.
But before we go into that,
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back in time because I've been dying to have this conversation with you. So you and Gabe came on Kind of Funny remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked to you early on about Avowed. And I said, Path of Exile. And I've been holding on to that ever since. Going, why did you say that?
I mean, the initials are the same.
Yeah, they are the same. But this is the Pillars universe.
It is.
Yes, it is. But I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you because I'll tell you another story. I saw you at the Xbox showcase, and I go, "That's Carrie." I'm too afraid to say it.
You know, it's funny because I was like, "Oh, that's Paris." Oh, he's not going to know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I shouldn't interrupt him. Yeah.
No. But the reason I bring that up is because you've obviously made various appearances over the past year talking about Avowed, and it's been a long process to get to this point. We're here at the end, and while you were at Gamescom over in Germany, I was at LA Gamescom, and I got to play it. And I really enjoyed what I got to play. I thought the preview that we did, the zone that we were in, the objective we had was really good. It felt like a great Pillars RPG.
Hey, nice. Yeah.
But what I played today, I think really pushed me over the finish line for what Avowed is, because I have to admit, every time you would come on and talk about Avowed, every time we would see something about Avowed, it was not until August when I played it that I'm always, well, I don't know what this is. Yeah. What exactly is Avowed going to be? Yeah. Then it started to click. But what I played today really pushed that over the finish line that, okay, I get it now. First off, there's been a visual upgrade to it. It was already looking good. Now it looks really, really good. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they see this final product that you're about to put out. But the combat felt better too. And it was already, I was fine with it, but this felt, it just felt good to play what we got to do today. And it's almost like I don't even have a real question for you, because I've been talking to so many people just about the combat, about the art, about the narration, just everything, the world building. I want to know, how do you feel now, after all this time? You're almost at the finish line for Avowed. How are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling stoked. I mean, you spend so many years when you're developing a game like this with your heads down, kind of working quietly. And there is such a long stretch of game development where the thing that you're working on feels less like a game, and certainly a lot less like what you played today than sort of a collection of features and very, very rough looking content. Yeah. And there's always, for every game I've worked on, there's always this, kind of moment in the final stretch where everything's finally come together. And as a team, you're playing it and you're like, oh, yes. It's clicking. It's coming together. Like, yes, this feels like something I want to play. Like it's, the art, the design, the combat, like all of those things start to click together. One of the challenges of showing off a game in development, obviously, is, showing things off in that rougher state and trying to show the promise of where you're headed. And with an RPG in particular, so much of what makes an RPG like Avowed really compelling just comes through in the experience. Yeah. Like, especially, the exploration. Like, what works about exploration is seeing something that engages your curiosity and then going off to discover it and then finding something that delights and surprises you. But that's not something you can show in a 90-second trailer. Exactly. Like, that's something that you have to soak with. And same with dialogue. Like, we are relatively light on cutscenes, but, whenever we have a dialogue, it's something that the player is an active participant in. You're defining your character, you're defining your stance with relation to other characters, possibly making choices about quests. And that is all stuff that's, again, very hard to show off in a quick, snappy trailer, but it's something that when you're playing it, you're investing in that character, investing in your choices. That's where the real satisfaction comes through.
No, absolutely. And you touched on a common theme of everyone I've talked to today: exploration. Mm-hmm. Everybody has said that. It's about going off the beaten path and just finding things within this world. And even in my limited playtime today, I saw the main quest. I was like, no, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And, got into a couple different encounters as a result, and it felt rewarding. And I just love that. That's what RPGs is all about. And to your point, I think it's very hard to convey that in a trailer and, like I said, on a 30-minute podcast where you're looking at B-roll versus you having the controller in your hand and actually playing it. And that's what I got to experience today, because I got about 2 hours of playtime, and it was ironic. Right at the end, it all clicked for me, how the combat worked, how to use my companions, all these things, all of it clicked. Thank you for playing Avowed. We'll see you February 18th, 2025. I was like, oh, okay. But now I get it. And I think that's the thing that I hope people get out of this conversation that we're having. And obviously all the previews and things that'll come out of what we're doing today is when you get your hands on it, you're going to get it. And I can tell you, for me, because I've been a fan of Obsidian games forever. So when Avowed originally got announced in 2020, I immediately... So, okay, I am still here with Carrie Patel. You're listening to audio. I had technical difficulties, unfortunately, but the conversation that we're having was about once you get your hands on the game and how that's going to feel versus watching a podcast or a trailer or something like that. And the point I was just making, that in my 2 hours of playing, it really clicked for me at the end. And I guess what I want to bring back to you is I'm just curious, is there anything about Avowed that we didn't get to play today or that you've not shown that you want people to know about the game? That isn't ruining anything, obviously.
Sure. Well, yeah, because I was going to say, I think probably right at the time your play session ended, you're on the cusp of some pretty big developments for your character and in the story. And I think there's a lot about the choices that you get to make over the course of the game, with characters, with regions, with your big storyline and kind of your smaller quest moments that you're going to see play out, and continue to pay off in different ways. I think there's one, pretty meaningful choice that you got to make after you fought the bear in the Strangle route.
Yes.
That is a precursor to choices that you'll continue making. And so, obviously you'll have to get a bit deeper into the experience and the story to see how those things play out and to see, what other options, come up. But that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to players experiencing. And a lot of us love to lurk on the threads and see what people choose, why they choose it, and how they explain their choice.
So it has to be exciting for you to get this game into players' hands, because the main theme of this seems to be player choice with the combat, with the dialogue, all this. So there's probably things that you've been testing internally that there's going to be things that people do that you're just not going to expect. So,
Yes.
how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's wonderful. Like there's nothing like seeing someone who is enjoying your game show you something you didn't know about your game. And even for those of us who have, been working on Avowed for years, it's still really rewarding to, play through a piece of content or a part of a region maybe that's gotten some recent touch-ups and find things that we didn't see the last time.
Yeah.
And because we didn't personally work on them, they're delightful surprises to us too.
I have to ask a technical question. So I was at LA Gamescom, and out of LA Gamescom, I just know that there was a somewhat controversial thing about frame rate that came out of that. So can you tell me what, from an Xbox standpoint, what are you targeting for Avowed on console?
So I guess, first of all, I do want to clarify something about that original comment, which was that 30 frames per second is not the target. It is, we will absolutely be hitting that at the very least.
Right.
What we're doing right now is a lot of, on top of our bug fixing, is a lot of performance optimization. And that's where we make, in part, all of the gains that we can on performance to just get that number up as high as we can. It's a little early to say right now, what that final number will be, but obviously, we want to deliver an experience that fully delivers on kind of the visual beauty and impact of the world that doesn't, diminish any of the VFX or the environment art or, any of the character movement that, you were seeing today.
Yeah.
But that obviously gives players the best frame rate we possibly can. And that's part of what we're working on right now.
All right, fair enough. So that actually leads me to another thing, just again, from a technical standpoint, because what I saw today, like I said before, is a visual upgrade to what I even just saw in August, right? I go, wow, this is really popping off of the screen, not just even from the color palette or just the levels, but even from the characters themselves. They look vastly different. Like, just being fully transparent here, that not the first trailer in 2020, but the first trailer when you kind of re-revealed the game.
Yes.
The character models there, as I'm sure you know, there was a lot of criticism over that. It's night and day now. So my question to you is, do you feel a risk with that as far as potentially showing something too early where I'm sure you knew internally, hey, we're still in development. We're going to be able to polish this. This is not going to be a representation of the final game, but that's what you showed a couple of years ago. So, I mean, what goes into that thought process?
It's always a challenge. And there's always kind of a balancing of, we want to give players a sense of where this is headed and kind of whet their appetites, but also not show things too early in a way that doesn't do them justice and doesn't do the work the team is doing justice. I think one thing that complicated that decision for us was the fact that, we had shown that earlier cinematic trailer, and it had been a while since we'd shown an update since then.
Yeah.
We knew that with the creative pivot we were taking, it was going to take us a while to, have our game content ready to show, which was true even at the time that cinematic trailer came out, right? Because that's obviously not in-game footage. Yeah. So, we wanted to show players, that we were still in development, that we were still moving forward, and we were excited about what we were making, but obviously not, make sure that we were showing content that would also get players excited about what we were going to deliver to them. And I think there was another aspect there, which was knowing that we'd taken such a different visual and aesthetic direction from that first trailer. We knew that there was going to be a bit of ripping the Band-Aid off in terms of revealing that new direction. Yeah. And so no matter how far along we were, there was going to be some amount of expectation adjustment that we would have to work through.
No, and I totally get that. And the reason I bring that up is because, as you might imagine, gamers can be fickle. And, first impressions, go a long way with it. So do you think because of that, you're going to need to, and obviously we're going to show it during previews and there's going to be things like this, basically reintroduce Avowed to gamers again to go, hey, here's where we were a couple years ago, but look where we are now as we're going into February.
I think by this point, between, not only the trailers that we've shown since then, but also, the gameplay footage we've shown, kind of the playthrough sections we've shown, I think we've had the chance to really, show players both the progress we've made and also really get them acclimated to the new direction. So I do feel like I've seen, even online, a lot of those comments and, concerns, be addressed. It feels like people see where we're going. And I think the thing that's been most heartening and interesting to me is the more that we're able to actually show in-game footage, something even like a 9-minute playthrough where we're showing a segment of a quest and, people are getting a sense for what it feels like to play the game and for how all of the different component parts come together, the warmer I've seen that reception become, which is, obviously what we want, because the final experience players are going to get is not hours of a trailer. It's going to be that playthrough, and players seem to be warming up to that, which is all we can hope for.
Had to get those questions out of the way.
Good.
Because these are things that people obviously want to know, but I know that isn't the fun parts of being able to make a game. There's obviously going to be trials and tribulations along the way, but getting back to the game itself. Again, this is in the Pillars universe.
Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. I still can't believe I said that. But how much having to stay faithful, obviously, to the Pillars universe, the lore and everything that came before it, but crafting a new story and a new way forward for Avowed. What's the balance there as far as making sure that you're not doing something that wouldn't be true to what came before?
Yeah. So I think the biggest, the biggest touchstones I come back to are largely about kind of the way we approach themes and tones and nuance in Pillars games. And that's where we have this very grounded sort of political layer and this very philosophical, metaphysical layer. And we give the player a story that gives them stakes in both of those worlds. And, you know, the way we approach characters and conflicts is with a lot of nuance, a lot of shades of gray. You don't always have easy good guys, easy bad guys. And, you know, good characters sometimes make bad choices for understandable reasons, and villainous characters sometimes are, you know, sympathetic and have their own understandable reasons for doing what they're doing. And so I think by kind of following those tonal touchstones and, you know, making sure that we're delivering stories and experiences that make good on kind of both of those layers of a Pillars world and Pillars lore, that helps us stay faithful to, I think, the core of what makes the IP what it is, even when we're telling a different story in a different part of the world and through a different style of gameplay.
Consequences in your choices. How important is that going to be in Avowed?
Your choices are going to be very consequential and very important. You know, obviously, you know, you're going to have moments like some of the dialogues you played today where you're getting to define your character, and the fun is not that, you know, every single line is going to determine the outcome of a quest, but just getting to step into somebody's shoes, feel out who you want to be, and start to inhabit that role. But there are some very meaningful choices that you're going to make over the course of the game. You did start to see one of them today. There are several that I think will pay off in surprising ways for players. One of my favorite experiences is, you know, either as a player, as someone watching someone else play, making a choice, you know, maybe with a particular character, and then seeing that come back to help or haunt me a few hours later when I wasn't even thinking about them, but they've shown up or their friends are here. So players can definitely expect to see that. And I think one of my favorite consequential choices in the game is actually relatively hidden. It's, you know, probably about midway through the game, maybe a little less. And there's something you can discover in one of the regions that will, if you discover it, if you engage with it, and then depending on what kind of choice you make around it, it will drastically change the outcome for that entire region and everyone who lives there. But the thing is, as a player, you have to go looking for it. Like, there's not a quest marker that's going to take you there. There are characters and notes and references that might kind of hint at it if you're paying attention. If you, you know, cultivate certain allyships or, you know, follow certain leads, you might get a little more assistance in finding it. But ultimately, it's another nook in the world that you have to engage your curiosity in order to discover.
I can tell you just from what I played today, two choices I made that I felt bad about after I did was I left the woman in the prison. And then I ran into another character. It was I ran into these two other characters. It was kind of like on a bridge. And I was purposely kind of being mean. Because I just wanted to see where it was going. And then we wind up getting in a fight. And afterwards I go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I felt bad. But I love that those type of things are in there. And it can invoke an emotional response depending on how you choose in the game. And like, obviously, as we get deeper into the game, there's going to be some really consequential choices as well. Talk to me as we get close to wrapping this up, companions. So we had one companion that we got to ride with here during this preview, but how important are your companions going to be as you adventure further on into the game?
So they're going to be very important to both your combat and also to the story. All of them have a role in the story in helping you get through the Living Lands and helping you resolve some of the conflicts and challenges that you're there to resolve. And all of them have stakes in that. So, you know, we wanted to, with Avowed, tie companions a lot more closely to that core story and develop a lot more central content around them. So, you know, they all have stakes in the world. They all have they were all either born in the Living Lands or they have lived there for a very long time. So part of what they can do is kind of help humanize the stakes for the world and the regions that you're moving through and making choices about, and also at times introduce a little bit of conflict. I think all of our companions are, fairly reasonable people, but they still disagree very deeply on certain important things. And I think seeing their perspectives, seeing that conflict develop through their eyes, and kind of letting them be a little bit of a test bed for some of the decisions the player might make and some of the priorities the player might choose, I think gives them a lot of meat and a lot of weight in the story.
Carrie, it has been an absolute honor getting a chance to speak with you, technical issues aside, but I'm very excited for this. I've been a huge Obsidian fan forever. So when this originally got revealed in 2020, I immediately put this on my radar. Because I cannot wait for Avowed to come out. And here we are now. We're so close. February 18th, it's coming out on Xbox and PC. And this is my kind of RPG. The combat felt really good. It's a beautiful game. I love dialogue choices. I love the consequences that could happen in here, and it's shaping up to be fantastic. So thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to me.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for playing, and thank you for those kind words. It's really rewarding at this stage to see people playing the game, enjoying it, and responding to it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.